Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times Good Stories podcast. My name is Joe Flanders. I hope you're having a lovely evening, afternoon, morning, dawn, dusk, sunrise, sunset, brunch time, whatever time it is. I hope you're having a good one. Things are going well for me. I'm very excited. Today on the show, I have Brian Sutow, and as the holidays are approaching, I thought it would be a good time to talk about all the shitty holidays that Brian and I have had, and we talk about them. Not that we've had them together separately, but we've had some good ones too. I don't want this to just be a hate on holidays, but yeah, Brian had some bad luck. With birthdays, several birthdays that were fairly grim and morbid, a couple New Year's, and a Valentine's Day. And I also talk about New Year's that was very awkward and disappointing and sad, and it was all my fault. So, yay holidays! To be clear, I do enjoy the holidays. I enjoy spending time with family. But sometimes I find it's best to just have low expectations, particularly with New Year's. Anyway, if you enjoyed the episode today, please consider giving it that 5-star review on iTunes. Maybe even write a review. That'd be nice. You can also check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes and merch, and a link to the Patreon page so you can support this show. And you can also email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. and share any bad times, good stories that you have experienced. I may just read them on the air. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with Brian Sutow. So, how's your day going?
Is this where we start?
Yep.
Good. I announced that I'm quitting my job to my boss today, so that's a pretty great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I guess it's a good feeling when you quit your job. It didn't come out of like, were you prepared for this? How far into this? How far back have you planned this quitting?
Well, I don't know. I'll say this. So it was a job that came out of a temp job. Okay. And from the very beginning, I made the decision, like, I don't need to make friends here because I'll be gone very soon.
Were you just the mysterious guy who wouldn't talk to anybody?
I was the quiet, awkward guy. Hopefully I won't be that today. But yeah, I was like, I was nice to everyone, sure. But I was just the quiet guy in the corner. They literally moved me into the corner behind this column because they just knew I would get my work done and not cause any trouble. Where it was like, is Brian here today? Oh, yeah, he's hidden back there. But I was never. So that was 2 years ago. I made the decision I didn't need to make friends because it was going to be short-lived.
Did you stick with it?
And then, well, I wasn't able to break it after a while. Like I was always nice to people, but when I had breaks, I would listen to podcasts or do what, play on I just wasn't. It was too late by the time I realized I was really there.
It's so crazy how that happens, though, when like you just decide what your persona is going to be at the beginning. And then even if the elements change, it's so hard to break that.
Totally. Well, and also like I've always been a weird personality type in that I can come off as very like polite and I was really raised to be very obedient and sort of robotic. And then I would go on stage and be a crazy maniac. Yeah. And like when I don't have that outlet or when people don't know that side of me, I just can seem very proper and staged the whole time. So like I'm sure everybody at that office thinks that I'm like the very sweet, boring, right, whatever guy. And they're not wrong. That's like all I've ever shown them. Right, so
where is this job? Or was it?
Well, no, I have to do it for a few more weeks because I'm the only one who knows how to do what I do. It's actually it's pretty nearby. It's like Koreatown-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a terrible blood phobia. I always have. There are good stories about that too. Blood makes me pass out.
Okay.
And while I don't have to deal with blood directly at the job, I am the person whenever there's people have to send in accident information forms. If something horrible has happened to you that seems like maybe somebody else is responsible for it, you have to write up a form, and I'm the person processing it. So like all day long,
You're just
I'll be
reading
reading these horrific incidents that people have gone through, and just like getting dizzy. And like, oh God, okay. All right, that's horrible. So it's really been a good fit. But for a while now, to answer your original question, and now that I live a little further away and the commute's just garish.
Did you walk out feeling like a weight had been lifted? You're like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm very afraid of confrontation. So, and I haven't had to quit a lot of jobs in my life usually. So I acted for several years. They just end, and everybody's happy.
And from the beginning when the date is going to be that's over.
Everybody agrees, so I was super nervous and nauseated, but then, yeah, it felt great.
Are you comfortable? And I can cut this out if you aren't saying where you work.
Sure.
Okay. Or what the place is?
Yeah, it's the Directors Guild of America's health plan office.
Okay, health plan.
And I was. So
the DGA, that's kind of cool. Or
it is kind of cool, but as someone who's trying to get into the industry, so my job was specifically dealing with both what I just said and also any sort of overpayment where people owed us money. And so,
you gave them money for something and then it was too much?
All kinds of things. I don't want to get into the specifics of a very ugly thing that's happening right now, but there's all kinds of reasons why overpayments can happen. And some of them are very justified and some of them are very infuriating. And especially the last few months, I've had hundreds of participants, some of them, famous people. It's like, cool, I'm getting to talk to famous people, but just pissed,
that's the worst.
Just furious of
have you talked with people who you really respect and admire?
Oh yeah.
But then, so you're talking to people who have to pay you money.
Yeah, where it's they get a letter out of the blue that's like, you owe us $5,000, surprise.
And nobody's happy to get a letter like that.
And you'd be like, well, I can see here that you earn good money. This shouldn't be a huge problem, but money is money. Nobody wants to.
And it's principle. It's
the principle of it. You can't just write me out of the blue and demand $5,000. What are you talking about?
Oh God, I can see why you want to leave. The idea of talking to people that you really respect and admire, and then them just shouting at you.
I'm just waiting for the moment that, knock on wood, if my career progresses, that just I run into someone who's like, Sutow, motherfucker, it's bound to happen. So far, I've been hiding under the fact that everybody, because my last name is weird, has just assumed I'm Asian. So even when people come visit the office, they're looking for the Asian guy.
Is Sutow an Asian name?
It's Ellis Island. Sutow is a Japanese name, but it was, I always forget if it was Sutowski or Sutovinsky, and they just
shortened it,
lopped it off. Yeah, get rid of that super Jewy part.
Wow. Have you been mistaken, without somebody having seen you before?
Yeah,
that's happened.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, they saw your name and then they assumed.
Oh, a lot, especially since moving out here, I guess, because there's a greater Asian population. There were people there were coworkers, again, because I was so quiet, who for a good year assumed that I was the Asian guy in the other half of the office that they hadn't met yet.
Yeah, we haven't met the Sutow guy.
Yeah. That's funny. I assume he's the Asian, the quiet Japanese guy in the corner, and then hi, it's me. Yeah.
Well, you had a big day. I also.
Yeah. How was your day? I really didn't ask, a real LA narcissistic.
No. It's quite all right. Yeah. I kept asking you questions. There wasn't a chance for you to ask about.
Well, it's funny only because you were doing your thing, I guess, but we bonded a little while ago at a party over both mutually being in conversations with LA people where it was 30 minutes of them just talking about themselves.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So anyways, so how was your day?
It's those situations it's almost like a performance art. Penny, calm down. There's just like an old drunk man who lives in my apartment. That's what the dog is.
I thought that was a neighbor. I didn't
During,
really,
yeah. During the last conversation we had, the dog just walked over here, burped very loudly, and then walked away. And that's why, there's just an old drunk man that lives here.
They know how to steal the scene. Yeah.
But to finish that the thought on the pompous LA people, it just feels like they're performing like a art piece, and you could just walk in at any point and they're just delivering a 30-minute monologue.
I walked into their one-person show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just as annoying as all the other one-person shows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you leave and it's like it keeps going and you can hear some other poor sucker getting roped into it and then it just starts over again.
Yeah.
Anyway, my day was interesting because I got prescription sunglasses for the first time ever.
Oh.
And for the longest time, I wore contacts and then would just wear cheap $5 sunglasses. Mm-hmm. But I've gotten to the point in the last couple of years where I just don't care. I'm not willing to poke myself in the eye every day to like, oh, glasses are lame. And now I'm just like, I don't care.
Contacts
I'm happy.
Seem awful.
You know, you don't need them.
I will probably need glasses or something sometime soon, but I'm kind of
had a good run.
I have. Yeah, I feel good about it. Although I had sort of like a lazy eye a little bit as a kid, so I don't know if that's a good run. But
it cancels out, I guess.
Yeah. It comes out when I'm drunk.
So I bought them at Target Optical, and they showed up, and I think that I may have purchased women's sunglasses. I don't know for sure. It's kind of like the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. Is that a problem though? Like,
not really. I don't even think it was an interesting moment of just self-realization where I looked in the mirror and I put them on and I thought, these might be women's sunglasses, but I'm okay with that.
You're in California. Funny enough. So I'm bad about sunglasses. I don't trust myself not to lose them, but I bought a slightly more expensive pair than usual the last time I got some.
Yeah.
And I was out with a friend who is a musician who's in bands or whatever. And he encouraged me to buy a pair that seemed cooler than anything I would have bought on my own. And I brought them home and my wife was like, that's the same pair I have. Those are women's sunglasses. And I still wear them all the time. I mean, what difference?
So what do you think?
Yeah. I'll judge.
It's borderline, right?
It's really borderline. I don't know.
Like I'm not the guy that can pull off, or I didn't want to just get the standard black Ray-Bans. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I didn't want anything that looked too cool and, like I'm putting forth effort.
Too cool, and I always feel like I look like a pedophile or something.
Yeah,
or
I don't know.
It's not good. But yeah,
and
those look nice on you. That's what I will say.
Thank you.
They're a good choice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I thought the same. And I'm wondering if the ones that I tried on I think it's the brown tint on the actual lenses.
See, my guess was it's the little pieces of metal in the corner that feel a little.
Well, see, that's on almost every Ray-Ban pair.
Oh, really?
That's like their thing.
So Ray-Bans are just for women.
For the women. Anyway, it was just an interesting moment I had where I just thought I don't care.
Yeah,
because I thought they looked good too.
I think they do.
Yeah, thank you.
They seem androgynous. I feel like anybody could wear those.
Yeah, it's not blatant.
No.
But whatever.
Yeah.
So apropos of nothing, the holidays are coming up.
They are,
and it's.
I think that was actually a good transition.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've gotten to a point now in my life where I almost don't even like holidays. I just want it to be a normal day. And from what I understand, you have a track record of some pretty shitty holidays.
I do.
Where does this tale begin?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I really made you hit a mark there. I hope it's worth it. Well, I'll start with what is maybe the bigger one that might eclipse my story itself, but it's not all that funny. But so my night. Well, no, actually, let me go back a little bit.
Sure.
So birthdays started being rough for me at some point.
Okay.
And in particular, there was one year when I was a teenager that I remember my grandfather got very sick. looked like he was going to die, and my parents understandably just like did not have time to deal with stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And they asked me, they were like, so Brian, like, we want to celebrate you. I didn't care, but like, could you go order your birthday cake? And I went over to the place I always go to, and I remember that conversation, which was, I placed the order, and the guy was like, all right, what do you want? I'll write something on the cake. What do you want on your cake? And I was like, happy birthday, Brian. Like it just felt so awful.
Did he give you like a sad look, like this poor bastard's ordering his own birthday cake?
Totally. Like somehow it had come up that he already knew I was Brian, and I was just like, oh God, this is the worst. Like, are there single like grown-ups out in the world who do that? Probably.
Yeah.
But it just felt so depressing. Yeah. So that was probably when I was like 17 or something like that. And then my either 18th or 19th birthday, whichever it was, the one right before going to college.
Yeah.
That same grandfather died on my birthday.
Oh no.
Yeah. Which was like really, really awful and terrible and sad.
Yeah.
And all of those things. I was pretty close with him. It was really tragic. So then, sorry.
No, that's fine.
This is great listening. All the gunk on my throat.
Cut him out.
Yeah. So cut to my 21st birthday.
Okay.
And I come from like a fairly conservative family.
Where are you from?
I'm from, let's say, Chicago. I'm from Evanston, which is just north of Chicago. Which is actually, it's where Northwestern is. It's actually a very progressive.
My dad went to Northwestern.
Oh, you're kidding me?
Yeah, for undergrad.
Small world.
Yeah.
All right. It's a good school.
But so the kind of the classic Midwestern sort of stoic, quiet.
My parents more so than Evanston on the whole, which is like Evanston, for people who don't know, it is like the progressive suburb of Chicago that was like trying to fix, not succeeding, but trying to fix all the diversity, like the racist issues of Chicago and like a bunch of wealthy hippies, basically.
Yeah.
But not my parents. They're relatively quiet, conservative people in terms of how they conduct their own lives, and don't really drink. A little bit more now, but I remember like once or twice a year my mom would have a small glass of sherry, and that was like
a big deal.
Yeah, totally. So my 21st birthday, and we were all going to go out to the Cheesecake Factory because that seemed awesome.
That adds up,
you know,
what you're describing.
Makes sense. And all, you know, I was going to order my first legal drink, and everybody was going to have a drink. And I'm sitting there at the table with my parents and my sister and her husband, and everybody orders a drink, but everybody's just like sitting there, super quiet and weird and more stoic and weird than usual by far. And I'm like trying to, you know, lighten the mood. I'm like, yeah, we're having a drink, whatever. And after a while, I'm just like, what is happening? And so I finally called them. I'm like, what's going on? It's my birthday. We're all going to have a drink. Why?
Yeah, we're at the Cheesecake Factory.
We're at the Cheesecake Factory. Life is great. Yeah. What's this about?
Literally have a novel of a menu to look through.
And so they were like, well, we didn't want to ruin your birthday. We didn't want to tell you, but your other grandfather died today.
Oh, dear God. No.
So both my grandfathers died on my birthday. And I remember the rabbi at my second grandfather's funeral being like, this is a blessing. I was like, only in Judaism could you call something this tragic a blessing. But he was like, well, look, now every time your birthday comes around, you'll remember them. And I guess that's
you could do that on whatever day it happens.
I could also just remember them.
It'd be nice to just have your birthday be a happy day.
Yeah.
You don't think about the death of two very important people in your life.
I agree with you. I think that's the better way to frame it. But you know, Jews have an odd sense of what's joyous, I suppose.
Can I ask what your 19th birthday actually was then? What was the party like? Was there one?
So I have a terrible memory. I don't remember. suspect that there wasn't. I think, I mean, it's crazy that they tried to celebrate me on my 21st. I was, outraged. Honestly, I was like, why didn't you just tell me? Like, this isn't something you could cover. You're clearly all very sad right now.
Just do this another time.
Yeah. Like who cares that it's not like I haven't had a drink before.
Right.
I don't think there was really a 19th birthday.
Did they just I'm just trying to figure out when that cake was eaten. Like,
that's a good question, because there probably was still a cake and like a present, but not an appropriate moment.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but
it's true. It's like, when do you eat it? When do you open the thanks guys, this is really nice.
Like at the the sort of open house, I'm forgetting the term, but like after the
oh gosh, I'm too bad at you to remember either.
Right.
The sitting
Shiva.
Yeah.
Like they have all the food out, and maybe there's like a mournful cake, and then next to it's your
here's
cake.
The birthday cake. Yeah. On the plus side, you get to celebrate with the whole family.
Everybody's together.
People fly in from across the country. It was. I really don't remember that one, which means it was probably dark. I have a feeling I repress
Our brains are funny that way.
Yeah,
or nice that way, that they just hide the darkness.
That's a really useful, useful function.
Okay, all right. So birthdays have never
so birthdays haven't been good. So that's sort of cute. So then and for me, historically, my best New Year's absolutely have been like me and two friends quietly, pretending it's a huge celebration. Yeah. But so I had this trying to decide whether the New Year's before, which was shitty, matters.
Yeah, tell it.
Yeah, why not?
If you want.
Here's what I can remember. So I had just moved to DC. This was sort of like right after college. I'd done like a touring show for several months after college, and then moved to DC to start a theater company. Had a little bit of money saved up, but it was right when the snowpocalypse hit, and DC, I don't know if you remember that, but DC is such a compact city that growing up in Chicago, it totally flummoxed me. Like, they literally didn't know what to do with the snow. They just had nowhere to put it, to the point where they built up these giant walls, and they were like, well, I guess we're just shutting down for a couple of weeks until it melts. Like, we put it everywhere we could. There's nowhere to go. So like, I moved to DC and immediately couldn't work and was going through my money and whatever. And went home to Chicago and had sort of a meaningful encounter with an ex-girlfriend. This will all come around. Just emotionally, nothing happened, but had a meaningful evening catching up with her, and then went back to DC where I had just moved with my current girlfriend. Yeah. And and I already kind of knew from that encounter with my ex that like this current relationship probably needs to end.
Oh boy.
But she did just decide to move to DC with me.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's a terrible feeling.
Which was real bad. And I remember when I left Chicago, my dad, knowing I was struggling with money, gave me a little bit of cash and was like, enjoy the holidays, help yourself out. And so my girlfriend decided that we would have this big night out on the town, and she had made all of these she'd made all these origami cranes with like little prompts inside them to make the night really exciting. And whatever.
That's sweet.
Really sweet.
That's like a rom-com movie moment.
Totally. Like here she is being incredibly thoughtful about what we're going to do for the night. And I'm already like kind of checked out. And then the first thing that happens is like we get to the train station, to the metro to go somewhere. And I don't remember if this was her choice or how this, but somehow she got on like an escalator backwards and was trying to run to deal with it, and slipped, and the escalator gashed her knee open. And I told you I have a blood phobia, so then she was just like bleeding out of her knee. So already I'm like, oh god. And somehow in the ordeal of dealing with that, of like blood just pooling out over her neon tights she was wearing, and me just being like nauseated and disgusted, somehow her bag also tipped and all of the paper cranes were gone. So that was already ruined. And then we start going to to bars, and it's really depressing, and somehow she loses her wallet, which is not just her wallet, but because she's just moved to town, it's all of her identification ever. So now she's without anything to be able to pay for anything or like
get into a bar.
Get into we probably looked grown up enough. I don't totally remember, but like it was like her birth certificate and her, just like the whole thing. So I end up like, she gets depressed. I end up blowing through all of the cash that my dad gave me, which I really don't want to do. I do remember vaguely her like offering me a threesome if I was interested in it, which seemed, like younger me would have been like, if you'd told me like she was a modern dancer, like if you told me that like a modern dancer girlfriend was going to offer me a threesome, it was like, that sounds like the coolest thing ever. And instead my response was like, no, I don't think so. That doesn't sound good. No.
God.
And
how did she take that?
I mean, I must have put it more delicately than that, I would hope, but who knows? I don't know. I don't feel like I was handling things.
Were you both fairly drunk at that point?
Well, the night did end with her so drunk that she was just vomiting into a toilet, and me feeling like it was a horrendous affair. So the next year, I had broken up with that girlfriend. And
how did that go?
Not well. Really not well, actually. And actually, Valentine's Day played a role in it.
Really?
Which
what
I
happened?
Forgot about. That Valentine's Day was coming up.
Yeah.
And I had like 3 auditions and a job interview or something. And I said to her, I was like, listen, I very much want to celebrate with you. I want to celebrate you, but I have all this work. What if we do Valentine's Day, not on Valentine's Day, but like the next weekend, so that I can really like, focus on what I need to focus on and then focus on you.
Yeah.
And she said, no. She was like, we're going to celebrate on the day itself. And I was like, cool. So we're going to break up.
Did you say that?
I didn't say it in that moment. It was just like a checkbox in my head. I was like, I was already pretty much here, but that really confirms it. And
that's what put you over the edge.
It is what put me over the edge. And I remember we had a friend at our apartment, like crashing on the couch at the time. And I remember I was like, well, heading out to break up with my girlfriend. And she was like, yeah, right. Good luck. I'll see you in a couple hours when you guys are still together. And then I came back and she was like, oh shit, you actually did it. So
how close to Valentine's Day did that happen?
It was, to be fair, it was probably a couple of weeks later.
Okay.
I probably let it go a couple of weeks, but not much longer. It's hard when you know, when you know it's over. I don't know how you pretend. There's this New Year's party that I've heard people talk about for years. You and I went to the same college.
Yeah.
There was somebody who was a couple of years ahead of me in college who she came from a very wealthy family, and her family had decided it would be really fun to buy a giant house on the coast, and that they would always host just like a crazy New Year's party there.
Yeah.
And so for years I'd heard from other actors that like a bunch of people would go and it would be super awesome. Just the best New Year's ever. Exactly what I was looking for. So, so I commit to going along with my business partner, Joshua. The two of us commit to going. And so we start to drive down to North Carolina from DC, which is about a 5-hour drive. And we start like 3 hours too late or something. And we're texting people to be like, yeah, we're going this year. It's going to be awesome. And literally everybody texts back like, oh, that party's so great, but not this year. Not coming this year. Just, yeah, I know. Everybody like busy. People have other plans. Who knows? But for some reason, every single person, it was like, oh no, we were expecting like a couple dozen friends, and it's looking like It's looking like it's going to be the two of us and a bunch of strangers, which is already not great.
I love that you guys didn't check ahead of time. You just assumed everyone was going.
Yeah.
You waited till the drive up.
Till the drive.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, we're coming. Total idiots.
Sure.
And I remember. This is a diatribe, but we were so far behind. We got super hungry. We had to stop somewhere for dinner before getting to the party. And oh man, I forgot about this. We tried to stop at the Cheesecake Factory. Actually, we typed in the Cheesecake Factory on the GPS, or it like came up on the list of restaurants on our GPS, and drove to the address, and it was the manufacturing headquarters of the Cheesecake Factory. It was like where they make the cheesecake, not a restaurant, which was horrendous. So then we were in no man's land, North Carolina, and the only place we could find that was coming up was Applebee's.
Sure.
Which is, I have to say, my least favorite chain restaurant of all time. While I was doing this touring show that I was just breaking from for the holidays, pretty much any time you stopped in a town that only had an Applebee's, it was a sign that it was going to be the worst place imaginable. It's just to say, if Applebee's is the only option, things are really bleak.
Yeah, if it's the only option, what's their incentive to up their game?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
You're gonna come.
You have to come. Where else are you gonna
go?
eat?
McDonald's?
Yeah. Totally.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Eating good in the neighborhood. Is that still their saying? I don't know.
Is that them?
I think so. I get Applebee's and Chili's, and are there Max and Irma's in Illinois?
No, I don't know.
That's very much an Ohio thing. That's like, to me, that's the top of the Applebee's realm.
Like it's the better.
Yeah. TGI Fridays, like that whole genre of food.
Yeah.
I'd say Max and Irma's.
I feel like TGI Fridays might actually be worse than Applebee's, but it's more festive.
Yes.
So
they try to hide it. They hide it better with their tchotchkes.
At least as a young person, the drinks were real cheap, where it was like 2 shots for $0.25. Like,
sure. And you get drunk enough that it doesn't matter how bad the food is.
Totally.
Great plan.
Totally.
Anyway, so you're at Applebee's.
Applebee's I hate, and I have to say, not just like being at an Applebee's on New Year's, but realizing that everyone else in the restaurant had elected to spend their New Year's in Applebee's. It was just a very depressing crowd. Right. Yeah. So already off to a bad start in terms of things that I hate. So we arrived to this party, and just as we suspected, there's like, outside of the host who invited us, there's like one other person we know, and then it's a very wealthy family. So everybody else, it's this girl who invited us has 2 sisters who both went to like very elite schools, and it's just this like very waspy, like uptight, very snooty, rich. Like we just felt horribly out of place.
Did you just like walk into a Woody Allen party, like in any of his movies where it's all the people with the sweaters and they're having intellectual conversations?
Totally. But like even worse,
without the banter.
There wasn't like, if it had been like if it had been a bunch of Jews, a bunch of like snooty Jews, I would have known how to find my way in. But instead it was like very, very Catholic, very
yeah.
I'm just totally lost. And like, I remember I had brought like a $20 bottle of wine as a gift, thinking that was like, an impressive as a young actor. Like, here's a nice and the host saw it and was like, oh, thanks. And then like put it down.
We'll use this for the cooking.
Exactly. Like all of this fancy alcohol and like very expensive wine. I was like, oh, Jesus, this is horrible.
The worst feeling.
Yeah. And started looking, of course, like wanted to have a New Year's Eve romance, started looking about. I felt bad for Joshua, my friend, because Joshua's gay, and there were all of 2 options, one of whom was this guy who really looked like Philip Seymour Hoffman out of, what's that movie with De Niro where he's like doing is it Flawless? Is that?
Yeah, I think I know what you're
something
talking about.
Like, yeah, but just like very, very unappealing, and literally at one point, like totally unprompted, ran through the party going like, I love cookies. Well, like we know we could
That's
tell.
not news to anyone.
Yeah, that's not surprising. And I at one point Joshua did get off to the side with the only other gay guy. They were both like in their 20s, had started their own companies, whatever, had gone to elite schools for their own thing, whatever. And this other guy, just like after spending a little time alone with him, was like, "You're just so different. I can't, you're just too different." And like started crying and was like, I can't. Yeah.
Oh dear God.
I don't know. I feel like I get it more now in terms of there really is a class system in our country. And like, I'm sure these young artists, however impressive we might have thought we were, just seemed like nothing to them.
Yeah.
But so I did, like, I remember there was one very pretty girl with like a really long neck who I talked to her friend and was like, "Oh yeah, she's single. You should try." And I walked over to I was like, "Hi, I'm Brian," and she went, "I have a boyfriend." I was like, "All right, cool."
And you already knew she didn't?
Yes, her friend had already told me she was single and looking for the night. So it was just a disaster. Somehow, even though it was New Year's and it was cold in North Carolina, everyone we knew, which was a small group of us, like ended up on like the porch outside in the cold because we just didn't feel welcome in the main party where all of the rich people were doing whatever the rich people do.
Right.
So I got very drunk and probably a little high. I don't totally remember, but probably. And got a text from my ex-girlfriend, the same ex-girlfriend from the previous story, just wishing me a happy New Year's, which was very sweet of her. And I should explain that for people who knew me in college, this ex-girlfriend had always been like, I'd been a little obsessed to the point of people worrying that I was going to like turn into a stalker. Like just that, like, I really felt like she was the one.
And were you dating at that point?
No.
Okay. So you were really into her in college.
My magic power in college was not sleeping with anyone. It was like, you too. Okay. Yeah. I was weird. I had gone from like very successfully dating in high school, having a couple of long-term relationships and then like went to art school and assumed the world will be my oyster. It is for everybody else. And then just,
what happened? What was it?
I don't know, but nothing happened is what happened. It was, and I remember thinking because, as an actor in training, you're thinking a lot about like, what is my trauma that makes me special or whatever. And all of my classmates had such great stuff and I really didn't have. I was like, my parents, God damn it, they were good parents. How dare you? I don't know. You didn't hit me. You didn't. But so I really thought like, well, it turns out my magical power is that I just never have sex. I repel women. I'm a monster. And really, I was probably just overly shy or whatever. But so I was obsessed with this ex-girlfriend and really like thought that she had to be the one. And, every once in a while would make an attempt and would see her a couple times every year, whatever. So she sends me this New Year's message very sweetly. And that's kind of the last thing I remember. Until I wake up the next morning.
Okay.
See a picture my friend took of me going to bed the night before that was like a Diane Arbus where I'm just like a total mess trying to take off my clothes and get into bed. Oh, I forgot about this, but Joshua also got very drunk at the party after that guy cried and refused to hook up with him or whatever. And stumbled back to the cabin where we were staying, realized that he had to vomit. Didn't have a lot of experience with it, so he stood in front of the toilet to vomit, and then went and somehow bent over to the point where his head went between his legs, and he vomited behind him. And there were no paper towels, so he proceeded to spend the next however long trying to clean up with the toilet paper in the cabinet. So, anyways, I woke up, and this is the real punchline to the story. So I woke up to not only that horrifying picture of me, but this text exchange,
which you brought with you, which is awesome.
Yeah, which I have recalled. So, although I changed the names in here, which is hilarious, but I'll use the real names at this point. So my ex-girlfriend Jessie sends me this text. Not sure where you are, but wanted to wish you a happy New Year's. Think about you often and hope that you're doing wonderfully. Smiley face. Very sweet text. Right?
For sure.
Really lovely. Then my sister sends me a quick text just saying Happy New Year. And then I respond, thinking I'm responding to Jessie, likewise, you're like family to me in that you'll always be important. I hope you're having a fabulous time and Happy New Year. Much love, and hope you have a year of great joy, discovery, and revelation. So much love. And my sister says, thanks, Bri. Hope that's an auto message. You are like family to me too. To which I respond, it's not an auto message. I'm surrounded by beautiful single girls, and regardless of how life plays out, I think I will always love you like family no matter what. I hope that you've had a great year and will continue to have one no matter what. The truth is I will always love you regardless of what choices you make.
Oh, God.
To which,
and that was to your sister.
That was still to my sister.
Thought it was to Jessie.
Yeah,
Okay.
still thought I was talking to Jessie, my ex-girlfriend. And my sister responds, this is your sister, not your ex. Have a good night, my dear. To which I respond, oi, that's really depressing and no help whatsoever. I'm so damn lonely. So I'll there's a little bit more, but I'll like rather than even apologizing or being embarrassed, I was like, Gene, unhelpful to my sister. So yeah, that's kind of my long-winded horrible New Year's story. But to cap it off, after 10 years apart, that ex-girlfriend is now my wife.
Really?
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We spent 10 years both kind of thinking like maybe this is actually the person. And I tried several times to reconnect with her and the timing was always wrong. She was dating a guy who seemed way more impressive than me, which really pissed me off for a long time. Yeah, he'd gone to Juilliard, not at CSA, and like had an engineering degree, but nobody liked him. So that's the good news. Okay. Yeah, she eventually reached out again after I'd kind of given up, and we were both like, either this is going to be horrible and we're going to realize we've been insane, or it's going to be like right. And from that very first night we got back together, we were both like, all right, so we're getting married, and that was like 7 years ago now.
Wow.
So there is a happy ending.
Yeah.
And I have learned to maybe unhelpfully to keep like reaching for goals and following my dreams, because apparently they eventually come true.
Sure.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long were you actually broken up before you kind of got back together?
Oh, we were broken up for like 8 or 10 years.
Wow.
It was 8 or 10 years of seeing each other like once or twice a year ish.
Yeah.
And we would both go back home to visit our families and yeah, crazy.
Well, that has a very sweet ending.
It does. Yeah.
My New Year's in question does not. So
probably for the better.
Well,
it is.
Well, yes.
It's not called bad times, happy endings.
Right.
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's a great story. This was New Year's, I'm going to say like 2013. And there was a girl in high school who I never really thought much of, not in a bad way. I just never really thought of her at all. She was very quiet. I was the class clown. It just naturally didn't fit, you know?
Yeah.
Like I just never thought of her as anything but like, oh, that's a sweet girl.
Yeah.
And then I got it in my head. I don't know how. I was just like, wow, like I totally, I think it was just like, you know, you can fall for somebody just through Facebook posts.
Totally.
And especially, as I mentioned, I wasn't getting laid in college. So there's
where else should I stalk people to develop inappropriate feelings?
Exactly. And so I, you know, like she was going to art school and like she was more graphic design and stuff, but like, you know, very attractive, always very kind. I knew her as that. But then I had this artist thing and I was just like, oh, like, you know, I go home a couple times a year. It'd be nice to just see what happens, you know? Yeah. And so she became this like 3-year fixation where every time I would go home, it'd be like, what's Lauren up to, you know? And she was always receptive to it. And I remember like we went out I think I always thought about it. And then after like having these thoughts in my head, I think after like 6 months, I've been home a couple of times. I hadn't pulled the trigger. And then I just sent her a message. I was like, hey, would you like to meet up? And she said, sure. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
And we met up. This was around the time it is now. It was like the holidays. And or it would have been December. And so we went and got coffee, and it was fine. Like it didn't feel strained. And she probably just let me ramble on and was, you know, still quiet and stuff. But anyway, it all felt good. And then maybe we went out one more time and like saw a movie. And then I was like, all right, my friend Dino is having his family is having a New Year's party up on the lake. They have a house. I've been a couple of times. It's like an hour and a half from Columbus.
Yeah.
And so it was his family and then another family that I went to high school with. They were having this party.
Sounds like the perfect setting. Again, like a waterfront house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then her dad had gone to high school with all the adults that would be at this party. So I invited the girl I was like, hey, do you want to like do New Year's together? And I'm sure I said it just like that.
It's a good invite. Yeah.
Sounded like a weird lounge. So, and she said, sure. And then she texted me the next day. I was like, hey, my parents would like to meet you before we go up to this New Year's party together. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
Seems a little formal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've always gotten along great with parents. Like it wasn't weird, but you know, and she kind of acknowledged like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I was like, okay, yeah, this is becoming like I'm asking your dad for something here. I don't
for your hand to New Year's.
So I went, and like he had gone to the same high school that we had gone to. And so he was like a wrestler, and we talked about wrestling at my high school, which I have no knowledge of and did not do.
Yeah.
So we just talked about that for like an hour and a half. I don't know how I got through it.
I'm impressed that you could.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably just navigated to other subjects. Like, yeah, the state championship was on the same night as the play that I was in. You know, I remember that.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of building up like, okay, like I've met the parents, like we've gone out a couple of times. Things are going great. And she didn't have a car at home. So myself and Dino, we gave her a ride. So we all drove up together. So just keep in mind, she now has no way to escape.
Always a good point in a story. Just to make it clear,
which was not a conscious choice on our part, but
yeah,
you know, if I were her, I would have. Oh God, I can't. Why can't I get out of here?
Now I'm nervous.
Yeah, not at the time, but later.
Yeah.
So we go to this party, and it's just a bunch of her dad's old friends. Her dad didn't go, so it's just a bunch of her dad's old friends, and then there wasn't really very many young people there.
Oh no!
And so there wasn't really anybody to talk to, and like this was that period where I just could not make a move. And I've talked about it extensively on this podcast.
That period never ended for me. I mean, I'm married now, but
sure.
But other than that, yeah.
And I've talked about it a lot. I jokingly blame Zach Braff because Garden State just fucked me up, where I'm like, oh, I can just be like the angsty guy, and then the cute girl's just going to talk to me.
That's how it works.
Yeah. It's like, no, if you're that guy at the party who's just on the bench looking like a bummer, no one's going to be like, hey, dude, what's going on?
That's so true. I think I had the same idea of like, I get to be like the depressed introvert, and then Natalie Portman wants to love me.
Yeah. Play me the shins. And so it wasn't like it was only a go-to when I like the whole, you know, I was pumping myself up. I'm like, this is awesome. This girl's going to New Year's with me. We're going to be in like a cabin and like on the lake.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it just got to that point where like my ego just started shrinking as like the night was going on for no reason. She seemed perfectly like up for something.
Well, you were
know,
surrounded by like 50
a bunch of old men,
just, you know,
quietly. Yeah, it was kind of an odd mix.
Totally.
And then, you know, like we were all in the room, and then the ball dropped. And at this point, I just didn't kiss her. It was just because at that point, I convinced myself I was sad because my grandfather had died 6 months earlier.
Oh no!
You know, I was like, oh, I would have made a move, but it's just for whatever, it's hit me hard right now.
This one's not,
which was
for you,
bullshit.
Yeah.
I just created this reason to be sad. And like, I wouldn't know what her reaction was because I wasn't going to dab out to make eye contact. Like I just stared at the TV, like the ball dropped and I was like, and
you know,
she
was for sure like waiting for that moment.
I think so. I mean,
you've been out on a couple of days.
Yeah, we've been out a couple of times, and if you agree to like go on to New,
you would have every reason to assume.
I'm sure she was anticipating that. I don't know.
I don't mean to like Me Too movement the moment. No, you're totally right. I'm sure that was the
that was her assumption. I don't know if she was like giddy about it or something. But
she was just like, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
regard. Yeah,
and that was and then I just didn't make any eye contact. And then I just went outside and smoked a cigarette without saying anything because now I'm sad. I couldn't just like talk to her. And I looked through the window and she's just like sitting there, just kind of looking irritated, like not at me, but just like, I'm like, oh dear God, okay. So then I kind of briefly get myself up again. I'm like, I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to be like, sorry, that was weird. And then lay one on her. But then I was like, oh, but I don't have any mints and I just smoked a cigarette and she's going to think that's gross. Oh, I'm sad again. And so I go back in. I think I wait for enough time after the ball has dropped to just be like, we're not going to acknowledge it. We don't need to. It's been 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I just start making some bullshit small talk and she's not into it. And then she like goes back next door to where we're actually staying. There's two houses next to each other. And then I'm just sad and I don't know what to do. And we had even put our clothes in the same room when we got there.
Oh,
and I'm like, okay, well, she's asleep. It's now like 2 a.m. I've just been chain smoking and then having weird conversations with 50-year-olds. I wish I could remember when any of them were, but I was like not invested, obviously.
Sure. You were just sort of autopilot.
Yeah. I just like kept drinking, which is always a great call.
That's the way.
And then it was like 3 a.m. And I was like, I got to talk to her, because in my head, everything had to be a big deal where I could like deliver this, why I'm sad and
big gesture.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, my stuff's in there. I don't want to just like creep her out and come in if she's sleeping. And I'm like, hey, but I'm also like, I don't know what to do. So I just texted her and I was like, hey, can we talk at 3 a.m.? And like, she was like, okay. After like my thought process was like, well, if she's asleep, then, she won't get it until the morning and then everything will be fine. If she's awake, then, like, who knows? Maybe there's still hope here.
I feel like it's that cumulative thing where you overthink every move to the point where each move could not be more wrong.
Yes, it wouldn't. Yeah. It was a choose your own adventure and both ended with me being dead,
Yeah, sure.
But so like 5 minutes pass and then she just says, okay. And like comes downstairs groggy. And then I just fucking I'm like shaking probably. And cause I'm drunk and tired. And I'm like, why, and part of me is just like, why can't I make a move? Like this was set up. It was teed up. Everything was great. And I start talking about my fucking grandfather and all this. I'm like, that's why I didn't make a move. I was thinking about him and blah, 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 blah. And then she was just like, dude, it's fine. But like, just relax. Like, what are you doing? And
she was just let me sleep.
Yeah. She's like, why did you bring me here? Which is a question I remember. And I'm like, I think you're pretty. And then I'm just like, like, and then finally she's like, yeah, dude, just like, don't, it's 3 a.m. Like, and I wanted to be like, it's 3 a.m. I must be lonely. But I kept that to myself. It wasn't the time for Matchbox 20 lyrics. Yeah. She just like went back to bed and I was like, can I get my things or whatever? And then she's like, sure. So I go upstairs and then I'm like trying to make small, like I'm not leaving the room. Cause I'm like, maybe there's still it's just awful.
It's hopeless.
Yeah. And then I go and like sleep on the couch. And then we got to drive home together the next day.
The long, awkward drive.
And I had blocked this out, but I called my friend earlier today whose party it was and everything, or whose family's party it was. And he was like, yeah, dude, that was the most brutal drive I've ever had in my life. Like we were both silent the entire way. And Dino didn't fully know what happened, so he was like, what? He knew enough that I didn't make a move.
Right,
and so Yeah. And then we never spoke again. So that was our New Year's.
Yeah, that is awful.
And, it was pretty terrible.
Awkward. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I take that back. We did.
You did talk again?
Yes. Yeah, because I was like, all right.
And now we're married.
Yeah, now we're married, just like you.
Yeah.
No, I just couldn't get out of my head. And then I think I gained some confidence. Enough time had passed or something. I think it was after college, that summer after college. I broke up with my one college girlfriend at the beginning of the summer because I was an idiot. But I was home. And I had, now that I've been through a relationship, I had a little more confidence. And I was like, okay. And so I just texted her again. I was like, hey, long time no talk.
Oh.
I chose not to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And when you want to go out, and we went out and it was fine. And then I dropped her as I pulled her up to her house to drop her off. I think I literally was just like, listen, can we just kiss? I've been, whatever.
Yeah.
And we did. And it was just no sparks. And it was like, well, see you later. And then I never saw her again.
But you both knew.
So I guess it has an ending that I got what I was after.
It came to a conclusion. That's, oh boy. Yeah.
But it was just the longest night of my life.
There's just nothing worse than, and I feel like as a neurotic person, I assume you are too, but we do this a lot where it's just that cumulative effect of I made the wrong move here, so I'll fix it by making an even more overthought, even more incorrect move here.
Yep.
You just dig such a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty brutal.
That's rough.
Yeah. I've only had one New Year's. My first kiss with my college girlfriend was on New Year's. It was like a storybook thing where it was we'd been hanging out some and, it was a new thing. And then we actually got to have our first kiss on New Year's.
Well, that's nice. And
so
look, and
nice.
You had a college girlfriend. Yeah, so it worked out eventually.
Yeah, one good New Year's.
Yeah. Yeah. I have had good New Year's since then, but now it's, I don't know. I'm not a big New Year's person.
No, I'm
anymore.
not either. I'm just content to hang out with my girlfriend, go out to dinner, and then
exactly.
That's. And then, last year, my roommates were doing karaoke until 3 a.m. Also 3 a.m.
The New Year's with the girlfriend where she cut her knee open and bled. We ended up at a karaoke bar near New, and I don't get the karaoke thing, which is funny as someone who used to be in musicals occasionally. I can't sing at all anymore, but I just remember not knowing how to function and her being like, you got to do one. And me choosing because I don't know how to choose songs for a karaoke. I chose The Impossible Dream, which is a terrible choice. And
is that from Les Mis?
It's from Man of La Mancha.
Man of La Mancha, that's right.
It's also 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
It keeps modulating. And
God.
And I just remember the drunken crowd booing, just be like, stop.
Yeah, what are you doing?
And I was like, you're right. This is awful. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually had to come out and tell my roommates to shut up,
Oh, they were doing karaoke at your place.
Yeah. And we were trying to sleep and, it had been fun for a while. And then they got to Big Butts and then Vanilla Ice and then MC. They always go hand in hand. Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer. I was like, all right, I've had enough.
It's already been the new year.
Yeah. So I was just a grouch. Yeah. Grumpus.
That seems to happen. I get that too. Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. So, holidays suck.
I like
Is that our takeaway?
Is that the takeaway? I don't know. I'm trying to not put too much of an onus on holidays.
Yeah.
And that seems to, they can be, I love togetherness with people I care about. And, I guess that's, I don't know.
Yeah. I like the family component. I'm excited. I haven't been home the last 2 years for Christmas. I'm going to go home this year. It'll be nice to see everybody. It's also, and I'm not complaining by any means, but my birthday or my Christmas present for my parents is generally just the flight home, which is very generous. But there's no real gifts under the tree or anything like that. So it's the magic is definitely gone, and it's more just I appreciate being with my family.
Yeah, which feels good somehow.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but it's more just okay. All right.
Yeah. I wish I'd come to more of a conclusion about how I feel about holidays. I think I'm excited to see holidays through the eyes of children, which I don't have yet, but nieces and nephews or whatever.
Yeah.
That seems nice. And I do really, as a Jew, I really love the decorating of Christmas trees and always try to find my way into that because that seems really fun.
Did you grow up getting to do the Christmas tree, or were you?
No, I think my
Jewish
parents,
enough
there
to-
were like we weren't very religious, but there were a couple times that they like pretended it was Christmas for us just so we didn't feel left out. But they gave up on that pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, that's not a thing.
But I just love going over to other people's houses.
yeah.
And, which is so all holidays aren't bad.
No.
I'm gonna come out in favor of holidays.
Are upbeat, but kind of, I'll say, have very low expectations,
Yeah.
and then everything will be fine.
Low expectations are good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
in
you
life,
can
on
just
holidays,
enjoy
you know.
yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have some eggnog if you want.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't even drink eggnog. Anyway, whatever.
I don't know if I've ever had eggnog.
Yeah, it just never seems like just seems like whipping cream or something. It just seems too heavy.
Oh, I do like whipping.
Yeah, straight up, just shots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Why not?
Right.
Just pull it out of the fridge. And, yeah.
Well, that seems like as good a place as any to,
Sure.
you know,
And
this
on whipping
podcast
cream.
endorses whipping cream. And
Yeah.
well, thanks for coming on, man. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun. I like that we went in some depressing directions
Sure.
too. That was interesting.
Oh, that happens. Yeah,
it does.
that happens on
Okay.
this
Yeah.
show.
I feel like I've mostly heard funny stories as I've
No,
listened.
no, yeah.
we
We
get to
go to some dark places.
go heavy.
Yeah.
All right. No, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Do you have are you trying to push your Instagram page? Do you want to promote anything?
I'm not really on social
Okay,
media.
cool. Yeah, that's fine.
And there are projects in the pipeline, but they're not done just yet.
Okay,
so no worries.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, good deal.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, if you're dreading the holidays in any way, just know that it probably won't be as bad as the stuff we talked about. So thanks so much to Brian for coming on and sharing his stories. Yeah, those birthdays are hard, but I'm glad that I'm sure there's still sadness there, but I'm glad he's able to laugh about it at least. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, give us that 5 stars on iTunes. Check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com. Email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. And until next Wednesday, keep laughing.